So CEO.ca is on site at VRIC in Vancouver, and joining me for the very first interview of the day is Quin of Hot Chili. So Stephen, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Stephen, can you just give us a little bit more color as to why you say that 2025 will be a catalyst-rich year for Hot Chili?
Yeah, so we've got some major milestones that we set up for in 2024 that have come to fruition early in 2025. So the primary business of the company is copper. We have a pre-feasibility study on Costa Fuego copper project that is due to come out at the end of Q1. But in parallel, we're also going to publish a pre-feasibility study on our water business at the end of Q1 as well. So they'll come out essentially simultaneously, and it'll provide the first time look at value at a pre-feasibility study level for the copper project, but also the first time anybody's seen any economics on the water business. So we believe those are the two biggest milestones that are coming in 2025.
Why is that important, especially in the country that you're in, Chile?
I mean, Chile is extremely dry. Using land-based water is virtually impossible because it's necessary for people, for agriculture, things like that. And so virtually all the mines are switching to seawater extraction. But it took us 8 years to get a permit to extract seawater. And not because we're slow, that seems about typical for the seawater extraction permits. So it's a very, very long lead time. In our project in particular, we can use seawater directly for processing. But where we saw the opportunity is upstream of us. There's CMP, who owns part of one of our projects. It's an iron ore company. They need water for an expansion of their mine. Upstream of us is Nueva Union, which is a joint venture between Teck and Newmont. They have two large copper development projects. They need water. Upstream of them is ATEX, which has a large copper development project, needs water. And then right upstream is the BHP Lundin joint venture, which has some very substantial projects, and they all need water. And what we saw was the opportunity to essentially crystallize a business that would supply water. We don't want to be in the water business, so we're not going to do it. We set everything up to allow somebody else to come in and do it. The best example or analogy of that is what Antofagasta recently did with their Centinela mine up in further north than us, where they have a large mine, they're expanding the mine, they need water pipeline expansion, they need a water treatment plant, a substantial amount of capital. And what they did was they spun out all of those rights, the water rights they already had, the contract they need to supply water, and all of that into a series of global companies that supply water and do infrastructure. They were paid $600 million US in cash, and it reduced the capex for the mine expansion by $380 million US. So they essentially saved, or received $1 billion worth of value by spinning out their water business. Now, to be clear, that's somewhat different to us in that mine's already in production, they're doing an expansion, so it's nearer term, but it's a similar model that we're looking at where we would spin that out, generate value for spinning the business out, and then reduce our capital cost by not having to build that infrastructure. So to be determined what all those numbers look like, but we see a substantial opportunity to crystallize value for something that we would be given no value for at all.
Why Hot Chili when it comes to being the company that is able to achieve near-term production?
Right. So we're probably one of, if not the most advanced copper development project of any scale, talking about 100,000 tons of copper per year, that's not already owned by a major. We're also at very low elevation. We're only 50 kilometers from the coast. We're about 700 meters elevation. So it's very different to trying to build a mine at 4,000 meters in the high Andes, a long way from the coast. So the infrastructure costs, the capital costs, the permitting burden, et cetera, is substantially reduced. So we're much closer to reaching that production milestone. What's different, though, is that water business. So we're not just a copper company. We can see crystallizing significant value from that water business, which would help fund the owner's part of the capital cost of building the copper mine. And so we should see significantly less share dilution because of that.
And can we talk specifically about Verde as well? We haven't touched on that yet. What's on the horizon exploration-wise?
Sure. So over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been systematically drilling the known deposits. And we've drilled those sufficient now to put them in a pre-feasibility study. But in parallel to that, we've been screening a whole series of other opportunities that are within distance that we could process at the same mill. One of those opportunities was called La Verde, privately owned core and then variously owned pieces around it. And nobody had been able to consolidate that package. They either got the inside or the outside, but not both. And we were able to consolidate all of that land package in late 2024. We jumped in there, drilled immediately, and we put out some pretty splashy drill results just before Christmas. 200 meters of 0.4, 0.5% copper, similar grades in gold, very impressive intercepts. And there are a series more holes that are pending that should be out relatively quickly, during January this year.
Now we talked about 2025 as a whole, but maybe some details on timelines could be useful as well.
For the copper development project?
Pre-feas, or any other key dates in mind.
Yeah. So the pre-feasibility study for the copper project and the water project is due out at the end of Q1, so March. Drill results should be out this month, January, for La Verde. And then with the pre-feasibility in hand, we step into permitting by about mid-2025, and that will start, approximately what we hope will be a 2-year time frame to get permits in place for mine development. And to be clear why that 2 years is because all the off-site infrastructure is already permitted. We've already permitted the power, the water. We're on the Pan-American Highway, so we don't need to permit a road. We don't need to permit a camp because the community of Vallenar is only 15 kilometers away. So all we need to permit is exactly what's on site, the open pit and the mill. And the rest of it off-site is already permitted. So we believe a 2-year time frame to get permitted is reasonable.
Well, thank you for being here, Stephen.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.